Cayman Islands reports crucial medical equipment being seized by the United States amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
With regards to demographic distribution,
Dominica confirms 15 cases of the novel coronavirus, but with no deaths thus far.
From 18 years to 85 years.
And Iraq's second prime minister designated in 5 weeks resigns. Hello, welcome to Telesur. I'm Carla Gonzalez in Quito, and this is from the South. The Cayman Islands is now the 5th country in the world and 2nd in the Caribbean to report medical equipment being seized by the United States amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Barbados, Canada, Germany, and France have all had the same complaint.
The U.S. authorities actually removed from a vessel, a ship that was coming to Cayman, a container which contained 8 ventilators and 50,000 masks and various other bits and pieces which I don't have the details of. And so that has been a huge disappointment to us. All of those were things that were produced and purchased in the United States.
And Dominica has recorded 15 cases of the novel coronavirus with no deaths until now.
With regards to demographic distribution of these cases, 10 are male, 5 are female. Their age ranges from 18 years to 85 years. The median age is 54 years, and most of them are from 2 health districts in La Plaine and Marigot health districts. All 15 cases are hospitalized, and all are clinically stable at this stage. The first index case had been discharged home yesterday following 2 negative test results within 24 hours, as per WHO protocols. And the patient is actually placed on a 14-day home quarantine. There have been no deaths due to COVID-19.
Ken, the curfew will be from Friday the 10th of April.
Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness has extended the nation's COVID-19 restrictions for the Easter holiday. The country's stay-at-home measures were expected to end on April 7th.
During the Easter weekend, the curfew will be from Friday the 10th of April 2020 through Monday the 13th of April 2020. The curfew will commence at 3 p.m. in the afternoon and end at 7 a.m. the next morning. In other words, the non-curfew hours, that is the period of time that you will be able to move about freely and conduct the essentials of life, would be from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. daily over the Easter weekend.
Trinidad and Tobago has recorded 2 new COVID-19 cases, taking the total number of positives to 109. The death toll, which stands at 8, has not risen since Monday.
Tests done so far, 987. Positive tests so far, 109. And when we take off the group from the cruise ship of 49, you are left with 60. Deaths, unfortunately, and condolences to the families again, at 8, and persons discharged, 1. What is the clinical update? Patients in hospital, exactly 100, with 1 being admitted as we speak.
A second person has died in Haiti after being infected with the novel coronavirus. The Ministry of Health has noted that the latest victim is a 69-year-old woman. She was one of 30 positive patients and had diabetes and hypertension, which complicated her case. Members of the public have once again been warned to take the virus seriously, abide by the government's measures, and maintain good hygienic practices. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro thanked China for its constant support and cooperation during the COVID-19 pandemic, which is helped by the permanent air route that exists between both nations.
We have welcomed 3 planes from China with humanitarian aid as part of our cooperation agreements. China is helping more than 120 countries in the world with medical supplies and assistance. The first country of Latin America and the Caribbean to receive medical experts and scientists from China was Venezuela. They are welcomed by the warmth of the Venezuelan people, and they have given us scientific experience and knowledge, their smiles, love, and solidarity. I want to thank the President of the People's Republic of China, Xi Jinping, our partner, for all the support he has given to our nation, to our people.
Meanwhile, Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez thanked the aid for the battle against the COVID-19, which was received from the United Nations system, the WHO, the Pan American Health Organization, and Russia.
En nombre del presidente Nicolás Maduro,
I wanted, on behalf of the President Nicolás Maduro, to express our deep thanks to the United Nations system, to its Secretary General, to the Director of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Adhanom. I want to thank the Coordinator of the United Nations system in Venezuela, Peter Grossman. I also want to thank the Russian Federation, its ambassador in Venezuela, our friend Sergio, as we call him, Sergei. Welcome. As soon as he arrived in Venezuela, he became very active in our bilateral relations, in our bilateral cooperation. Today we have received 20,000 kits of PCR tests from the Russian Federation. As you will know, one of the highlights in this fight against the pandemic, in addition to the collective and social quarantine that is being complied with in Venezuela, is also the process of mass screening through PCR and rapid tests.
After this break, the Red Cross is set to send 16 tons of medical aid to Latin America and the Caribbean. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's continue with news. In Ecuador, a pipeline by the state-owned Petroecuador company has been ruptured due to land subsidence spilling oil into the Coca and Napo rivers in the country's Amazon region. The incident took place on Wednesday evening in the San Rafael sector along the border of Napo and Sucumbío provinces. Local indigenous communities have alerted the government and Petroecuador, which later sent a technical team to assess damages. The company also suspended operations at the Esmeraldas refinery until the leakage is fixed. Communities demand Petroecuador also handle the contamination of water caused by the spill. The former president of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, has spoken out against the current government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Lula said that the far-right government of Jair Bolsonaro needs to take the pandemic much more seriously.
I have a lot of criticisms of the federal government. I would like for it to function properly, but it has to do 2 things right. The first one is to convince society to self-isolate and for the president of the country to stop talking silliness. People need to remain at home. It is necessary for the state to give people the condition to sustain themselves. If it is necessary, the government has to print money.
And Lula da Silva also criticized Bolsonaro's continued attacks against China.
There was not even one gesture by the president of the country that could be recognized as a humanitarian gesture. What he does every day is rude, offensive, contemptuous. He offends China. Why fight with China? China is a country we should not fight with. He is such a follower of the United States, and Trump does not care one bit about Brazil. The government should have taken a plane to China to talk with Xi Jinping and said Brazil wants to buy this amount. You know, to assert his authority, asserting the needs of Brazil.
Brazil has now over 700 deaths caused by the novel coronavirus, but an underreporting of cases and the low number of tests are being highlighted as an obstacle in the fight against the pandemic.
As of April 2nd, the Villa Formosa neighborhood in Sao Paulo registered 40 burials per day suspected to have COVID-19, the same number that was reported by the health ministry for the entire nation. The Union of Public Workers denounced a lack of equipment for workers at the funeral homes and also confirmed that official numbers do not represent reality.
We were surprised about the reported number of deaths. We demand that the state report the real numbers, but they aren't doing it. So we call on the press and all institutions and organizations to make this demand from officials. The government has the obligation of informing people and of implementing the appropriate measures to protect public workers and regular citizens.
The Health Ministry and the President of the Supreme Court signed an accord to allow for the burial of bodies without a death certificate in cases where there is no family present. The local government in Sao Paulo asked to release the reports of those who died in hospitals or in their own homes.
This week, one of the worst things imaginable took place in Brazil, when the government authorized the burial of people without the proper certificates determining the cause of death. This is a dangerous precedent. It only happens under a dictatorship.
Since mid-March, the Villa Formosa cemetery digs 100 graves per day, as opposed to the usual 50. Funeral homes in Sao Paulo have increased operations by 20%. The Minister of Health recognizes that the lack of testing doesn't allow for real numbers to be reported. And while more laboratories are starting to process COVID-19 tests, there is still a waiting list of over 16,000 people.
Ignacio Lemus y Julia Nassif para Telesur desde Sao Paulo.
The Paraguayan government has announced an extension of the nationwide lockdown for another week. This will be the third extension of the lockdown since the first confirmed case was reported on March 7th. On March 20th, the country imposed a quarantine that was supposed to last until April 12th, as positive cases of COVID-19 have risen to 119. The United Nations and the Red Cross are preparing to send over 16 tons of medical aid to various countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, giving priority to Ecuador, the worst hit in the region. From their collection center in Panama, the international organizations have gathered supplies, including face masks and gloves. Planes carrying the aid have already started to depart Panama, as a number of countries are in danger of seeing a complete collapse of their health systems. South Africa began a massive screening and testing campaign for COVID-19, which is expected to reduce the growth of cases, which currently stands at 1,845 and 18 deaths.
This is the Elsie's River Community Clinic. It's servicing an impoverished working-class community just outside Cape Town. It's also a community with a high prevalence for HIV and TB. Since Monday, government started rolling out a mass screening and testing program.
This week we have started that mass community testing and screening, and we'll know in terms of the impact probably by, most of the results across the provinces by next week. But that will influence whether the lockdown should continue or not.
Around 10,000 field workers will be visiting homes in villages, towns and cities to screen residents for COVID-19 symptoms. This is a screening and a test center set up for members of the public. And your first stop is right here, where you have to fill in a questionnaire. And here they put 5 questions to you. And if you answer yes to any of those questions, you'll then be sent to this van for a proper test. With 495 infected, the Western Cape is the province with the second highest number of COVID-19 cases. So far, 4,000 have been screened in this province and 250 tested. Meanwhile, everyone is waiting to hear from the president whether the lockdown will be extended.
We will be able to make a proper, if you like, scientific assessment in a few days' time to see how well this lockdown is serving the people of our country. But what I can say, if we had not locked down South Africa as we have, I can tell you without any shadow of doubt that the infection rate in South Africa would have been a lot higher than what we have.
With testing still limited, the apparent rate of increase in infections in South Africa has remained relatively low, but health experts warned against the premature suspension of the lockdown.
With my colleagues from the Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, we are in it in order to make it a point that we fight it.
The national lockdown is due to expire on the 16th of April, but many countries have opted for an extended lockdown period. Johan Abrams for Telesur in Cape Town, South Africa.
To other countries now, authorities in Benin are enforcing the mandatory use of face masks as a preventive action against COVID-19. The measure was implemented to halt the spread of the virus as police in Benin monitor the compliance. But citizens have complained they cannot find or afford the masks. As of Wednesday, the country reported 26 cases, 1 death, and 5 recovered patients.
A mask can be worn 2 days in a row. You wear it today, it's sure that tomorrow you have to change. So you need to have money so you can buy one today and tomorrow at 200 CFA francs per unit. In 1 week you could spend 1,500 or 2,000 CFA francs. So it's really difficult and we have to go and get it from the street vendors.
To our information, every pharmacy must have 1,000 face masks. The first time we had 300 and all of it sold out in under 3 hours. Yesterday we had 700 and that sold out in under 4 hours. There is a high demand but we are still waiting.
Saudi Arabia has announced a ceasefire in Yemen starting on Thursday. The UN called for a halt in hostilities amid concerns of the COVID-19 pandemic. This could pave the way for the first direct peace talks between the Saudi-led coalition and the Houthi rebels, who have been at war for more than 5 years. The ceasefire will reportedly last 2 weeks and could be extended for all parties to discuss proposals, steps, and mechanisms for a sustainable ceasefire in Yemen. Coming up, China is set to build a hospital near the border with Russia. Thank you for joining us again. Iraq's second prime minister designate in 5 weeks has stepped down from forming the government, giving way to intelligence chief Mustafa al-Katemi to fill the position. His resignation comes after 8 Iran-backed militia groups issued a joint statement accusing him of being a U.S. agent and threatened lawmakers if they approved his proposed cabinet.
I offer my apologies first to all those who trust us and expect us to achieve what is seek and want. I have been keen to move forward, carrying out the task entrusted to me with great honor and great responsibility, sitting before me a fundamental and sacred primary goal, which is to save Iraq and ensure its return to the right path, a stable and influential country and its Arab, Islamic and global surroundings.
Iran's health ministry has reported 117 more deaths from the novel coronavirus, bringing the country's toll to 4,110. The number of confirmed cases surpassed 62,000 as 1,600 new positives were discovered over the last 24 hours.
Unfortunately, over the last 24 hours, we have lost 117 patients. By adding up these 117 dear persons that we have lost, we will have a total of 4,110 deaths until today, who were confirmed to have tested positive for the COVID-19 disease all over the country. 1,634 cases have been identified across the country by our colleagues to have been confirmed to have the coronavirus over the past 24 hours. By totaling up the new 1,634 new cases, we will have 66,220 cases who have tested positive for COVID-19.
Spanish authorities say the country's daily coronavirus death toll has fallen for the first time after rising for 2 consecutive days. One of the worst hit by the pandemic, the nation has recorded 683 fatalities in 24 hours, taking the toll to over 15,000.
The cumulative total of cases as of yesterday afternoon is 152,446, which includes 5,756 new cases, as I told you yesterday. Based on the data from the last few days, we are continuing to see a downward trend, and today's daily increase is also 4%. The number of deaths recorded yesterday was 683, and the total number of people who have died is 15,238.
Now to the United States, where over 16 million people have filed for unemployment over the last few weeks, as businesses across all sectors are laying off workers en masse. Online unemployment assistance systems have crashed due to the number of applications, forcing citizens to wait for hours to obtain physical forms. Several food banks around the country have also reported a significant surge in demand. This comes as the government has injected trillions of dollars into the stock market and loosened regulations to appease investors and bail out corporations.
I've been here since 6 a.m. to get an unemployment form because I am without a job now. With the coronavirus, you can imagine, I am asphyxiated now. I have to pay for the car, I have to pay for my phone. How am I going to pay for all this?
People looking for help. People crazy right now, almost, to get something because we don't know the situation, how long going to be.
The World Health Organization has responded to U.S. President Donald Trump's comments that he would cut investment to the body, warning him and other leaders against politicizing the pandemic.
Politicize this virus. It exploits the differences you have at the national level. If you want to be exploited, and if you want to have many more body bags, then you do it. If you don't want many more body bags, then you refrain from politicizing it. My short message is, please quarantine politicizing COVID.
China is setting up a temporary hospital in the city of Suifenhe, located along the Russian border, to cope with COVID-19 cases imported from across the border. The hospital is being set up in an office building and will house about 400 medical staff and more than 600 patient beds. Conversion work is expected to be completed on April 11th. China has temporarily closed its border crossings with Russia as the number of coronavirus cases imported by its arrivals has continued to rise, with 40 new infections reported on Wednesday. Almost 400 pilots in Czech Republic have joined an initiative to distribute medical supplies across the country to help combat the COVID-19 pandemic. Using the country's 200 airports, pilots transport face masks, respirators, gloves, and other materials to those in need. The initiative emerged from a Facebook group, and pilots financed the flights themselves. They have so far carried out 31 flights in less than 2 weeks. As of Thursday, the Czech Republic registered over 5,300 cases and 104 deaths.
I signed up a few days after the initiative emerged. I thought everyone should contribute in this difficult time, and pilots know how to fly, so they should help this way.
And a rocket carrying a 3-man crew has blasted off to the International Space Station, leaving behind a planet overwhelmed by the coronavirus crisis. The crew, made up of 2 Russian cosmonauts and a NASA astronaut, launched from Russia's Baikonur cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. However, COVID-19 has changed the pre-launch protocol, with the trio going into a longer quarantine and holding a virtual press conference ahead of the launch. In recent weeks, astronauts and cosmonauts have also been sharing tips on coping with self-isolation, as more than half of the Earth's residents are on various forms of lockdown due to the pandemic.
And liftoff.
And with that, we end our news brief. But you can find these and many other stories by checking our website, telesurenglish.net. For our viewers in Africa, you can find us on Starsat channel 461 in South Africa and 539 in Nigeria. And be sure to also find us on social media. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.